There was always something just not quite right about this slogan, Make America Great Again, and over the years it's kind of bothered me, and I think I have figured out what it is. It's not the idea of making America better. It's the idea that if the Make America Great Again movement were ever to be 100% successful, it would then have to, by definition, dissolve. Because the minute you define America as great in your own mind, there's no need to make it great again. I don't think a lot of people have ever tried to reconcile the idea of the Make America Great Again movement going away. But it's baked into the statement. You have to be suffering from something called declinism to be a true MAGA. It's the belief that a society or institution, country, is always getting worse and worse over time, no matter what the facts say about anything. MAGA is based on this. But here's the problem. Here's the real issue that I don't think a lot of people can wrap their head around. It was that very declining society that led to this man becoming the wealthiest he's ever been. I think a lot of people would say, okay, well, we've been in decline since the 1970s, maybe late 1960s, who knows, maybe the 90s. But Trump was getting nothing but richer and richer and richer and richer and more successful during that decline, yet he's the leader of the movement. You would have thought the opposite would have been true, that he would have had a great deal of wealth, an enormous amount of wealth, and then because of the decline in standards and the cause of the decline in country and the advent of socialism and all this, that he would have become poorer and poorer and poorer. And there would have been a lot of people just like him that would have said, yeah, I'm poorer too. I have less money too. And the movement would have congealed around that, but it didn't. That's the strange thing. Another topic we're going to talk about over the Patreon channel here very quickly is cognitive dissonance. It's misdefined by a lot of people. You have two choices. You can look into new information and possibly accept the idea that we have been, or you have been, or whatever group has been, making poor decisions or making decisions based on poor information. Or, because it feels good, you can just ignore the new information or dismiss it out of hand as false or psyop or something like that, and go back to the bad habits. Those are the two choices. You see, the second one always feels good. And that's the thing about MAGA. It feels good to say. It feels really good to say. I think that's why a lot of people wear the hats. Because they think they're part of fixing something that truly, for this guy, couldn't have been better. Kind of strange, huh? If you'd like to get read in on these tactics, these psychological operations, tactics and techniques, 21 cognitive biases, 21 logical fallacies, join us, Florida Maquis Patreon channel. Love to have you over there. Pardon me, we have a large group of people over there. We've got hundreds of videos going back, my gosh, all the way 2018, 2019. And the best part about it, if you join us over there, you've got 90 days to kick the tires. It's already the beginning of October, and it would be, well, I guess it'll be 2026 before you would have to make a decision and risk losing any money. You have 90 days, basically same as cash, really, over there. You can go over and look at all the stuff. If it's not for you, full refund, no questions asked. Love to have you over there. Going right along with this is how someone can be completely right and totally delusional at the same time. You see, the folks out there who believe they have an enemy who doesn't agree with MAGA would only say that, okay, let's make America better. Let's see if we can improve on. If there's things in the past we did better, let's go ahead and do those. But let's also consider that perhaps there's some different ways to go in the future that might be better. You see, MAGA can't have that. MAGA can't have that. Pete Hegseth is a perfect example of this. He just came out and put out this speech about all these standards that he wants to go back to the olden days of the standards. Well, those of us who are older than him would like to see that as well. But I don't think he would like to take it back to my era or even my parents' era or my grandparents' era. And I know there's people in my audience who are my age, older, and much older, who would say, yeah, we need to take it even farther back and make it even tougher. He said, and I quote, it's tiring for him, interesting choice of words, to look out at a combat formation, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Quote, it's a bad look. You see, what he doesn't realize is that over the last, 10, 20, 30 years, the military has changed in the sense that we now just allow people to cosplay as soldiers, cosplay as Marines, as airmen, as sailors. Because it's all about, like what he just said, it's about the look. It's a bad look. Soldiers that take care of themselves and run and do all this kind of stuff, they look much, much better in their uniform. But you see, there's a reason. There's a reason this happened. We created a military that is basically powered by unicorn queefs, butterfly farts, and Smurf tears. It's because we were running out of people. It's another subject for another day, but we were running out of people. People were just not signing up. Do you know why people were not signing up? People were not signing up because it was difficult. Their lifestyles weren't honored. And in America, there were so many other opportunities. The military was just a very difficult thing to do. The standards are really high, and it just wasn't fun. See, this is what, then the military got to the point where it was in desperate straits. So they had to launch this DEI to literally change the military, to literally have just people showing up for boot camp, to even give it a shot. But in there was built the lie. In there was built the lie. Not everybody can be a soldier. Not everybody who signs up can be a soldier or an airman or a Marine or a sailor. There are some people that are just not cut out for it. Hold on one second. Here we go. See, the infantry units of my day, back in the 80s, these dudes were toxic. These dudes were absolutely the most toxic guys you'd ever want to be around, in great shape. And ladies out there, believe me, when these dudes went out and they partied, you wouldn't want to be around them. Maybe later, maybe after they were done partying, if you were in need of some company, but not during. And that was okay, because soldiers were supposed to be toxic. That was the job. This is a picture from Panama, 1989. These dudes here are not a bunch of underwear models, let's put it that way, but meaner than shit, and can get the job done, and really wouldn't give one rat's ass about a bunch of screaming drill sergeants. They would just do their job and do whatever, and somebody wants to give them an Article 15 or somebody wants to give them some NJP or whatever, they don't give a shit. They just did not give a shit. They would have been described as toxic, toxically masculine. You see, we loved it. You see, we weren't going to be the last one. We weren't going to be the one who didn't make it. We didn't care if it killed us. We weren't going to be the one, and it led to unit cohesion. It led to everybody seeing the world through the same lens. But what's going on now is entirely different. You see, everything has to be accepted now. And you have all these different people with all of these different visions of the world and what it should be. And it goes to this. You see, when I was in, my dad was in, my uncles were in, my grandparents were in, there was a level of shame. A level of shame that you did not want to be associated with. Don't try boot camp. Don't you dare go try it if you think you ain't going to make it. Because the worst thing you can do, at least from my era, was try and fail. If you rocked out of boot camp, you got ELS or you got discharged because you couldn't hang with it, that was actually worse than if you had never tried at all. It kept out the riffraff. It kept out the riffraff. And how many of you, and I'm sure this is going to shock a lot of people, how many of you remember when the military decided they were going to force needles into dudes' arms, whether they wanted to or not, and when they said no, when they said they weren't going to have that death jab, they said, fine, discharge me. I'm out. I'm done. And now they're the military coming back hat in hand. Oh, we'll restore this and we'll restore that and we'll restore the other. You will never restore their honor. The U.S. military unceremoniously drummed these guys out. And what did they do? What did they do? They shamed them. They shamed them to the world. They shamed them to their family. They wouldn't follow a direct order. Taking that jab. And now Pete Hegseth is thinking that he's going to restore the military somehow. How many of you saw Trump with the CEO of Pfizer getting his kickback earlier today? Yeah, brought the leader of Pfizer in because now you can buy drugs directly from the government, and it's called Trump RX. Whatever you do, let's not go down that socialist trail, shall we? See, anybody who doesn't think they're living, a lot of people think, Florida Maquis, I can't listen to you. You've described yourself as a socialist. I said, yeah, a Christian one. I'm not deluding myself in the fact that I don't live in a socialist country. We live in a socialist country. Say it out loud with me. We live in a socialist country, regardless of what Trump says. The U.S. government, if COVID didn't convince you of this, I don't know that you could learn anything at this point. The U.S. government 100% controls the means of every production of everything out there. If they want a business closed, they will close it. Try not paying your taxes. Try not following regulations. Try not getting the proper approvals. Try not getting inspections or being insured. Try not having a license. Down the socialist trails we go. The U.S. government can do anything they want to shut down business, turn on business, make certain businesses be more successful, some less. Don't get me started on the tariffs, what's going on with soybeans, and the farmers getting all these kickbacks and subsidies because all of our soybean markets have now been stolen by Argentina and by China. And, anyway, a whole nother story for a whole nother day. So if Pete wants to go out and play pretend, that, he was some kind of a ranger, or he was some kind of a super soldier, and he wants everybody to fall in line with his super high standard of physical training. Let me read real quick for you what Pete Hegseth really did in the military. After graduating from Princeton in 2003, Hegseth was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the United States Army through the university's reserve officer. He was a ROTC officer. Basically, Reserve Officers Training Corps, ROTC, ROTC. He briefly worked as an equity markets analyst at Bear Stearns. Hegseth completed his basic training at Fort Benning in Columbus, Georgia, 2004. And for 11 months, he was a Minnesota Army National Guardsman at Guantanamo Bay Detention Camp. That's exactly where Governor DeSantis was. There he led a platoon of soldiers from the New Jersey Army National Guard guarding detainees. So he was the commander of a security unit. By July of 2005, he was back at Bear Stearns. Shortly thereafter, he volunteered in the Iraq War as an infantry officer, where he received a Bronze Star Medal. Hegseth served in the 3rd Battalion, 187th Infantry Regiment, and the 101st Airborne Division, led by Michael Steele. He began his tour in Baghdad before moving to Samara, where he served as a civil affairs officer. He had this thing where this RPG hit his vehicle, but it didn't explode. And then he was at a training center in Kabul. So basically, he was a civil affairs guy. While he was on again, off again at Bear Stearns. Posed for a lot of really good pictures. And then back in 2014, he got promoted to major. He was in the IRR, Individual Raid Reserve. Through the reserve, he joined the District of Columbia Army National Guard in 2019. Barred from serving at the inauguration of Joe Biden because he's Deus Vult, all this stuff, all his tattoos, all that garbage. So, point being, whether you want to go back to my era or whether you want to go back to my dad's era or his dad's era, things were tougher. Things were tougher. Some might say things were better. As far as the toughness of the soldier, perhaps. As far as the quality of the equipment, not even close. I had to qualify with an old M16A1 from the Vietnam era that literally had so much play in it. It was just ridiculous that it could hit anything. But that's, when you get out in the bush, you realize, things aren't quite so pretty and nice. I'm going to leave with an image that I think might confuse a lot of people, but I'm just going to go with it. U.S. Coast Guard seizes 12,750 pounds of cocaine worth $95 billion off Florida coast. Okay, people are used to seeing images like that. Coast Guard offloads record-breaking amount of drugs off Florida coast, $473 million. Okay. Is this evidence of winning the war on drugs? No. You see, what it says is there's so much coming to this country. It shows the level of demand for this drug or whatever these drugs are in this country, that these drug dealers can take these kinds of losses and still send more and still send more and keep sending more. It shows the level of demand in this country. The demand in this country is the problem. Winning the war on drugs would look like this. It would be a guy coming on the news and saying, well, pretty much the entire U.S. Coast Guard fleet was for repairs, in dock. They're at dock for repairs. Nothing really going on out there. The drug trade is almost completely collapsed. Nobody in America buys drugs anymore off the street for any reason. And the price of those drugs has plummeted to the point where the drug dealers in South America can't afford to send them anymore. They don't make enough money. So we have no use for the Coast Guard ships anymore. You see, that would be winning the war on drugs. That would be winning the war on drugs. Think about this clearly for just a minute. Imagine if this was Walmart and billions and billions of dollars of their goods were being pulled off the roads by pirates. Imagine that. Entire truckloads just disappearing. They'd have to shut stores. They'd have to raise prices. There'd be areas they wouldn't serve anymore. Kind of like what you see with Walgreens and CVS, actually. That they're still sending this amount means they believe they can sell this amount to Americans. What does that mean? America is the problem. See, this whole MAGA thing starts with Americans being the problem. And I'll leave it there. God bless. Join us on Patreon. Pray for each other. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Lift each other up. Like, share, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.